夢の木しぶきをめ春烈天地を結び天鶴は嵐の化身不滅の友人の利
Happy Sunday, everyone! My Sunday recap video is gonna have to wait because I have to discuss a fellow YouTuber, a friend of mine. He also, streams Twitch. He's blowing up on Twitch though. It's Amatsu Ryu, a big fan of Monster Hunter, even bigger fan than me. He even pre-ordered the special edition for Monster Hunter Wilds. So I didn't do that. It was just like, and supports Capcom through getting the new skins to show off. Like, I only got the sacred mount that looks like the dragon. There's like two of them. One is like a Sakura dragon, and then the other one's just like a regular. They both look cool, but like, I think he has like all of them, and it's cool stuff. Like Monster Hunter comes out. It's a game that is a price that is fair for its content and like the subsequent content that gets released, right? So if you buy the game on release, like most people will complain about it because they're immature, they're new to the series, and like they don't possess any self-control, right? Like they'll speed run through the whole game within 2 to 3 days, like playing it like almost nonstop 24, and then within like that period of time, then they're just like grinding end game. They've probably fought like the final monsters in each respective game probably like hundreds of times. So they're always going to be the ones who bring the score of these games down because let's face it, like for every Amatsu Ryu, we have the rest of the streamers, which is why I think it's important to talk about like actual streamers, people who actually play these games, as opposed to like people who just they go online, they got like a personality, they talk to their chat like it's their own personal piggy bank, or like like they're too comfortable with the idea of begging. Like I'm gonna get into it in the next segment, but I find like the fact that streaming has been only successful to like the smallest percentage of people. Like if you think about all the people online right now streaming, right? The success rate is like 0.0.01. Like it's capable, like especially as we are increasing in population to be successful on that platform, whether it's Twitch, YouTube, whatever, right? Whatever endeavor that you're trying to gain. But since there's so many people like cockroaches, like Dark Side Phil, like LTG, like people who just don't die and like have tons of content surrounding them, tons of controversies. It's like they're like cockroaches. You know what I mean? Like Dark Side Phil is literally called the pig roach, right? And LTG, I don't think it's too far behind. Like if the claims about him having a kid are substantiatedly true, but like like it's one of those things that like opens up your eyes, and like I'm glad I know a guy like Amatsu, as opposed to like entering into the chat and you're just like talking to and donating to a possible like deadbeat father. Want to be Virgil? Want to be Virgil? Ah man. All right. Also, he's probably Amatsu Ryu. He's probably 2 times the hunter rank than I am. So like, basically, you gain ranks by like hunting monsters, doing quests, etc. Right? He does both PC and PlayStation 5, and Like, yeah, he's leveled them both up, and I think both of those levels, like I'm 330, 340 right now on Mounts of Her Wilds. I think he's past it. He's probably 400 plus on both. But he actually is probably higher than just two times because he had to do redo one of his characters. I actually forgot which one he reset. It's just so he's really like dedicated to this game as opposed to someone who like the aforementioned streamers who just pick up the game, play it, give it up and like whatever, right? Then on top of being skilled and dedicated, Amatsu like engages with his chat and his delightful crew of followers who he quests with. That's the joy of Monster Hunter, which is why like I kind of got back into like multiplayer games because I got a PlayStation 4. My first two games were Sekiro and Devil May Cry 5 respectively, right? So I'm playing these games, they're single player, and then I'm like, okay, let me just check out the online aspect of, whatever, right? The Sony store. Mind you, you have to pay to play online, so I kind of knew like yeah, like this it was going to be like one of those things where unless I had a good enough reason to pay for the service, I wasn't just gonna dedicate like throw in I don't know how much back in the day it was like it was pretty cheap actually. I think it was like 40, 50, 60 a year. I don't know. And then they started increasing and increasing, and now we gotten to like 109. Yeah, yeah. And, oh, this is one of those things where I have to point this out because I think Amatsu Ryu is probably at least on his PlayStation account. Sorry to laugh. No, it's not at you. It's just like at the situation of it. So apparently, I don't know if it's the case with Monster Hunter Wilds. I have to check. Certain games require a PlayStation Premium. That's like the highest tier version, $200 plus in Canadian dollars. I don't know how much it is in American. Like to pay for the entire year, plus tax, by the way. I don't know if you American people pay taxes on your services. Yeah. Yep. 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 And like, you know, also he plays other games too, like RPGs, a lot of old school stuff. Like unfortunately, like Amatsu Ryu is a dying breed of streamers because for every one of him, there's so many like bottom feeders waiting at the bottom, like beneath the earth, on the bottom of the ocean. Like I find that like some streamers are like those types of people who are like on the bottom of the ocean, right? Who like feed off of like the broken dreams and like the leftovers of other like streamers. So let's say like in the near future, hypothetically speaking, Ninja and his entire like channel like just goes away. Whatever he quits, he's like, I'm tired of this shit. Fuck you, stupid kids. I made my money. I'm gonna fucking leave. No more dyeing my hair the fucking color of bleach. And then he was just like, has all these people who are watching his Twitch streams, excuse me, Twitch streams channels. Oh damn, not again. Not again. I have something in my throat. I need to use my inhaler. Give me a second. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. Okay. Back to the program. So, like these Twitch streamers, right? Like they are like like probably the worst example of like increasing the prices for everybody, including my friend. And it's like, wait a minute, how much is the Switch getting sold for because of Dark Side Phil? I'm gonna go into this on my Sunday recap video, but just to surmise, like we are paying all of us, including him, for the use of these consoles, these online games. And not to like, get too much into that, but I have to comment on the fact of the recent um what do you call that? News, the discovery that Nintendo Switch 2 can brick your console, basically meaning it will be unusable if you modify it, if you, I don't know, some sort of conduct, or, you know, and it's this weird situation that we're all living in, where you take a guy like Amatsu Ryu, and he cut his teeth on the older versions of Monster Hunter. Like I said, he's a much bigger fan of the series than I am. So he's played probably Tri, for Ultimate, you know, like Generations Ultimate, like pretty much almost every single one. I wouldn't even put it by me if he played Frontier, but you know, Frontier is just like, you know what I mean? Like you have to dedicate like a year to playing that game because there's just so much content in it. So it's like it's the addiction factor plus it's like the can I get it to work on my computer? Can I, you know, whatever, right? But you know, you don't have to adhere to every single title release to say that you're a big fan. I find that like, okay, if you're a fan of Frontier, go, okay, good for you, and like you get to fight monsters nobody's ever seen before. So, well, unless you count like, you know, Espinas coming back in Sunbreak, right? But you know, it's just one of those games that like I wouldn't call you like I call you a mega fan if you play it, but it's like you could still be a fan and like have a connection to the series, you know? Like for me, I started with World, right, and Iceborne, and then I got hooked, like, you know, Rise, then Sunbreak, and now Wilds, right? And I think that like Amatsu Ryu is a dying breed because you have a game like Monster Hunter Wilds, right? And it's getting all this like insane cool content and like, you know, the possibilities are endless. Like we're starting off with like arch-tempered monsters, and then the release of Lagiacrus coming back into the franchise after so long because he was just like bound to one game, Try and Try Ultimate. You know, the high rank and then G rank of those games respectively. And having him back, you know, all the feels. Some people started playing, and I know this sounds like sappy, but like some people started playing Monster Hunter with Try, right? Like honestly, when I saw Try, I was thinking about getting a Nintendo console back then because it just seemed so cool, swimming underwater, you know, playing, you know, a different type of, you know, feel with different kinds of like sea-bound monsters. It just seems so interesting to me. I wish the mechanic would like return and maybe in high rank and wilds and stuff, but you know, you never know. Like you know, give it a chance, right? If Lagiacrus comes back and enough people like you know have a positive reception to him, most likely we might see a return one way or the other of underwater combat. But there's also like the possibility that excuse me, that underwater combat will be altered to make it more appealing to modern audiences. So my hypothesis on that is okay, we have a bunch of mounts called sacreds in Monster Hunter Wild. Wouldn't it be the obvious next step to make them like, you know, submersible somehow and like, you know, controllable to an extent underwater? And like yeah, mounted combat is somewhat visible in Monster Hunter Wilds, like you can do it, but it's like you suffer from like you know a basic move list and a damage nerf for like a lot of weapons. But like you know maybe if it's just that and maybe the underwater combat is untouched, then we can see like you know a resurgence of it. Because like why not just have those monsters just come back from you know beneath the depths? Well, thank you very much. Thanks for watching my video. Don't forget, check out Amatsu Ryu.